What hiking gear is truly worth the investment? It's something you want to get right, because if you get this wrong, well, it's kind of like hiking with a pebble in your shoe. Your entire adventure could be ruined. Hi everyone, I'm Mauser, and in over 30 years of hiking, I have seen my fair share of gear wins and fails. So in this video, I'm going to break down the 7 types of gear that you should splurge on and where you could save a bit of money along the way. I'll walk you through everything you need to know to get the most out of your hikes without breaking the bank. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the one piece of gear that could save your feet and your hike, the crucial gear that'll make carrying your load easier, why you don't necessarily need the priciest jacket to protect you from the rain, how to choose a shelter that'll protect you in the wild, what you need to know about sleep systems if you want to stay warm and travel light, why clothing hype is overrated and where you can cut some costs, and finally, the safety gear you can't afford to skimp on. Stick around, this guide is going to transform your hiking game, and by the end, you'll know exactly where to spend your money wisely. Now, if you're new to hiking, then I'm not saying to go and buy all of this stuff in one go. It took me literally years to build a full kit of gear, so if you're just getting set up gradually, then these tips will help you in your decision making along the way. I'll also mention pieces of gear I think you should prioritize and buy first. And on that note, what is the first thing you should probably buy? Well, it's your hiking foundation. It is footwear. So let me ask you this. What happens when your feet give out on a hike? Your whole trip is shot. I have been there many a time, and that is why footwear is probably one of the most important purchases you can make. When your feet hurt, nothing else matters. Footwear is the foundation of any hike. If your boots fail, if your shoes fail, it's like trying to build a house on quicksand. Everything crumbles. Now, I've learnt this the hard way, as have many people I have walked with over the years. I've had blisters upon blisters, and it's not nice, and you want to avoid this at all costs. Now, a good pair of hiking shoes or hiking boots will keep you going when lesser ones would leave you behind, blistered and sore. Invest in footwear that suits your individual feel and preferences, and your hikes will instantly feel a lot better. A well-fitting, supportive hiking boot or trail runner can make or break your hike, but you've got to test out your footwear before you go. You could splurge on the latest and greatest pair of super tech, best ever hiking shoes or boots to find that they are too tight, they don't suit your feet, and they give you blisters. So don't think that spending more is necessarily going to be better for your feet, but spending too little could have adverse consequences also. So the moral of all this is to really take your time to decide on the best fitting footwear. If you have a preference to use boots, then be prepared to pay up for a good pair. Even good trail shoes can get expensive. Cheap boots, on the other hand, may seem fine, but they can often lack the durability and the protection needed for rough terrain. And I have seen quite a few times soles come away from boots, even on good quality boots, but they're just getting a bit long in the tooth. Even the best quality boots on a long trip can get wear and tear. Now, footwear is a massive personal preference, and I do not like to recommend specific brands. So I recommend you visit your local hiking store, your local footwear store, and try on a few different types. Boots or shoes, again, that's a personal choice. I do find that once I find a brand that wears well on my feet and feels good, I tend to stick with it. I use both trail shoes and boots, and generally I stick with 1 or 2 brands of each type of footwear. If you get your footwear right, you've really set yourself a good foundation for your hiking experience. And good footwear should be one of the first things that you make a solid investment in. And believe me, your feet will thank you if you take the time to find that perfect pair of boots or shoes. And the next item you should invest in, well, it's an important one, but it doesn't have to break the bank. And it is your jacket. So here's a bit of a controversial take. Don't spend a fortune on your waterproof jacket unless you're dealing with extreme conditions. Look, if you are starting out and are heading on day walks or multi-day walks on well-groomed tracks and trails, a mid-range, breathable option will do the job just fine in terms of a jacket. It's all about balance. And waterproof jackets are another essential, but you don't need the most expensive one. I remember when I was buying my first Gore-Tex jacket in the 1990s that there were a few available. At the time, I went for a cheaper option, but I remember seeing the prices on some of those expensive ones, and I was just thinking, wow, that is a lot of money. At the time, Arc'teryx had just been released here in Australia, and the price tags on that thing were like $1,600 30 years ago. Now that purchase would have been completely unnecessary for me. My cheaper one lasted me for well over 10 years, if not longer, and I still wear it occasionally today. A mid-range option will work for most conditions, and in Australia you can probably get something that works pretty well for around 200 to 300 Australian dollars. For those ultra extreme type of jackets, you can be talking 3 to 4 times as much, if not more, for one of those jackets. And like footwear, if you're just getting into hiking, then a jacket is one of the first items you should be investing in. You'll need to pack it on every walk, no matter what the length or the conditions that you're expecting. Now, regardless of the type of jacket you have, if you are going on a multi-day walk, you're going to want to give the next item some serious consideration. A good tent is your shelter, your home away from home. Think of this as your portable fortress. A solid tent keeps the elements out and the comfort in. Spend a bit more on a tent if you're into multi-day adventures. If that's what you're doing, if you're going out for days on end like I do, spend a bit more. Lightweight, durable, and easy to set up, this is where comfort and safety merge. For multi-day treks, a durable tent is key, and it is something you'll need to consider purchasing if you are heading out regularly. You want something that's easy to carry, but can handle bad weather as well. Now, higher end tents tend to be more durable and easier to set up, but if you're just camping occasionally, you're just a weekend warrior going out for a night here or there, you can potentially save some money here. But for regular hikers heading off on big missions, you probably want to splurge on a pretty good tent. Now, over the years, here in Tasmania and Australia, I have found brands like MSR, Big Agnes, and Sling Thin to work well in all sorts of crazy windy conditions. One of my first tents was a Terra Nova Prairie here in Tasmania. That lasted me for well over a decade, and it was a great tent. But if you're a weekend warrior and you want to save a bit of money, then there are more and more brands appearing on the scene which allow you to save some money while not sacrificing durability. One that I've recently been paying a bit of attention to is a brand called Nature Hike. The jury is still out on this one. My brother has purchased one. We're testing that one out, but it does look like a good affordable option if you're just getting into hiking, doing some easier walks, and just going on your first sort of overnighters and 2-night walks. But I do know of some pretty serious hikers using them out in the wilds of Tasmania, and they seem to be holding up pretty well. Another area you can potentially splurge a bit of cash on is your sleep system. Now, if you're hiking regularly, a high quality sleeping system is a must. Your sleep system is like the insulation in the walls and the roof of your house. But get it just right and you're going to feel warm and cozy all night long. Keeping warm without carrying too much weight can be a lifesaver on long trips, especially of a week or more. For weekend warriors though, you can get away with some slightly cheaper options if you're just going for a night or two. But if you're getting serious, if you're hiking a bit, investing in a high quality down or sometimes a synthetic sleeping bag is crucial for warmth. And if, like I said, you're getting into multi-day hikes, it's something you will definitely want to make a sound investment in early on. A good sleep system will last you for years. I can't tell you how many times I've woken up thinking how happy I was that I invested in a good sleep system. If you want to be warm and carry less weight, then you will probably need to pay for it with your sleep system. There are cheaper options out there, but they will often be much heavier than the lightweight options. If, like me, you appreciate warmth and comfort out on the trail, then you can still spend a fair bit and sacrifice weight for an ultra comfortable sleep system. And I am currently testing out a new quilt system, which I'm going to review on an upcoming video sometime in the future. But that one in particular has got me very excited. I'm looking forward to being just in my comfortable bed out in the track on the next few trips. Now you can go crazy with your sleep system. You can be going in addition to your key components of your sleeping pad and your sleeping bag or quilt. You can be doing things like getting a pillow and all sorts of crazy stuff. But when you're starting out, keep it basic. Keep it to a pad, keep it to a sleeping bag or a quilt. Now, you can spend a bit of money on a sleep system, but there is one area in particular where you can save quite a bit of money when you're setting yourself up. And that is, well, it's in the clothing. Now, with clothing, there's no need to get caught up in designer brands, There's all these designer brands these days. As long as your clothes protect you from the elements, you're pretty good to go. You want to focus on moisture-wicking fabrics and durability. You don't need to pick up gear at top-tier prices in designer hiking stores. In my early days, when I was a struggling university student, I would survive cold, rain, and snow in very much budget gear, but it was made from the right materials. Back in my early days, a lot of my stuff was no-name fleece and cheap synthetic thermals. These days, you can really build up a good warm clothing setup on a tight budget. The second-hand gear market is huge, and even budget gear can have great longevity. And on that note, if you look after your gear, it will last a long time. One of the things my mates and I amaze at is the one hiking shirt that my good mate Walzer has been wearing on pretty much every trip with us for 30 years. This shirt is indestructible, and it just goes to show that if you look after your gear, it could last 30 years or more. That shirt is seriously indestructible, and maybe it deserves its own video one day. Now, while you can save on things like clothing, there is, in my opinion, one area where you really do not want to skimp, and that is on safety gear. Your safety gear is your insurance policy. It is potentially your emergency exit for your hike. I've always been of the belief you should not cut corners on what could save your life. I think it's really important to invest in quality essentials like a personal locator beacon, just a basic first aid kit, and reliable navigation tools. These items are your lifeline if things go wrong. Your safety isn't something you want to compromise on, especially in remote areas. Spend wisely here. I myself have been carrying some form of satellite communication technology on every extended trip for over 20 years. Back when I was a broke university student, we would always hire a personal locator beacon before heading out on extended trips. Later, we moved on to things like spot trackers, prepaid satellite phones, and finally, the last few years, we've been using things like the Garmin InReach. But personally, I think if you are heading out on a walk where you're going to potentially be without phone reception for an extended period, you should always be taking a satellite communication device. If you can't afford to buy one, look at options for hiring one, for borrowing one off a friend, or just outlaying the cost of the investment. If you hike regularly with the same group of people, then one option is to split the cost and have a group device that you share. For the peace of mind that these things give you and the potential to save your life, I see them as an essential piece of gear for multi-day hikers. So do have a good think about that if you're starting to head out onto multi-day trips. And now that we've looked at all this gear, well, you need something to put it all in. And that's where this next bit of gear comes in. It is your backpack. Now, your backpack is the spine of your gear system. Get a weak one and it'll be like carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. You want to be looking for a well-designed pack with the right features for your needs. If you pick the right one, you'll carry your load effortlessly, no matter how far you go. Now, I normally recommend a backpack as one of the last items to purchase in your kit. You want to make sure that all of your gear will fit into it, and if you don't own a full kit yet, then you may end up with a backpack that is too small if you buy one too early. I, as well as lots of other people recommending gear to buy, often recommend this. I think it's a good strategy to go with, that you pick your backpack last after you've got all your other gear. Then you know what you've got to fit in the backpack. When I was young, my backpack was one of the last items that I purchased. I borrowed or hired packs for years until I had assembled all of my gear, and then I finally bought one, and that one pack that lasted me a good 10 to 12 years. I've still got it now. And when you are purchasing a backpack, it is definitely something ideally you want to be able to try on if you can, to ensure it is correct size and fit. But having said that, a lot of cottage brands these days are making some really good packs, and they are only able to sell online, so you may not necessarily be able to try it on. So if you are buying it online, ensure that you size it up according to the manufacturer's instructions and check out their returns policy in the event the pack doesn't fit. These days, I personally tend to go for more minimalistic packs, but there are a huge range of different options to choose from. Think about the features you want in a pack. Do you want external pockets? What type of waist belt? Do you want pockets on the waist belt? What sort of closure system do you want? Do you want a roll top closure, or you want clip closures? There are so many different options, and that is another reason to leave a pack purchase until the last big item of gear that you purchase. You'll get to know what you like and what you don't, and what you do or don't want in your pack. And with the wide range of packs these days available, it is good to have a play around with a few different ones if you can before you make that purchase. I've tested plenty of packs over the years, and trust me, spending more here is a smart investment if you plan on hiking for a few years to come. And if you're building up your kit, you're still getting into hiking, and you want to learn some ways to lighten your pack, then check out this video where I look at my key strategies to drop the weight of your pack.